Oi! What up, Year 11s? Welcome to our second lesson of consolidating matrices with these worksheets. Remember, these questions are taken from Year 12 further exams from the past, some back as far as 2009, some a bit more recent. Just in case you're wondering, my full-blown camo ghillie outfit, whatever you want to call it, this I just invested in to wear out in public. So in case I saw any of you guys coming, I could pretend to be a bush on the side of the road. It is very hot, it is very itchy, and I'm really hoping that while I'm standing here in my lounge room recording this, that no neighbours come over and knock on my door for whatever reason. Alright, let's get into it. I'm going to take this off though because it is very hot and very stuffy. Alright, first question. So what we got here is a matrix. It's asking what set of simultaneous equations can this matrix be set up to actually solve. So what we need to do is reverse it basically and put it back into the original equations. Usually with these sorts of questions, you don't need to write out all three equations. You can usually either write out one or two, and then that eliminates all options. Some of you will be able to look at that and very easily be able to identify which set of equations it is without having to fully write them out in their complete form. But for this sake, we are going to write them out. All right, so these three numbers up the top here represent the coefficients of our first equation. So what we got is 4x plus 2y, we know it's plus because that 2 is a positive. If it was a negative, it would be subtract, plus 8z equals 7. So just looking at the options here, alright, so all 5 options say that is their first equation, so that doesn't eliminate any of them just yet. Next one is 2x. Now we have a 0 here, so it'd be plus 0y. But we don't need to write that, so that just completely eliminates that as a term. And then we finish with 3z equaling 2. Again, look at your options. All right, so that takes out option A because it has 3y. Option B also has that. Option C says 2y plus 3z. Option D is 2x plus 3z equals 2. It could be that one. Option E has 3x take z. Don't like that. So it actually leaves us with one option. Just if you're curious, the third equation would be 0x. That's not there. Leaving 3y minus z equals 6. All right, next question. What we've got here is a pretty large transition matrix at 3 by 3. What the question says: regular customers at a hairdressing salon can choose to have their hair cut by Shirley, Jen, or Naj. The salon has 600 regular customers who get their hair cut each month. In June, 200 customers chose Shirley, 200 chose Jen, and 200 chose Naj. The regular customers' choice of hairdresser is expected to change, as shown in this transition matrix. In the long term, the number of regular customers who are expected to choose Shirley is closest to. Alright, so hopefully by now you know that when there's a question that says in the long term, that refers to the steady state matrix. So when your matrix gets to a point where it doesn't change from state to state. Now for that, we first need two pieces of information. One of them here we've got, the transition matrix. The other one we need, the initial state matrix. Pretty easy to set up this one. Now there's 3 variables we're talking about here, the 3 hairdressers, so it's going to be a 3 by 1. And as specified in the question, 200 people chose each hairdresser. So it's going to be 200, 200, 200. The first one representing Shirley, then Jen, then Naj. Okay, so what we need to do is raise that transition matrix to a significant power and multiply it by the initial state, and then test that again. So what I might do is, alright, I'll say the 100th. So t to the power of 100 times the initial state. If you just weren't confident, what you could do is test that again. Alright, so hopefully you type up those two into your CAS, you get the same answer. It means that that's our steady state matrix, so we found out how many customers choose each in the long term. I'm not sure what the entire answer is to that, but you type that in and then the number of people that chose Shirley should come out to 170, or B. Alright, so that was the only piece of information you need. Once you type that in your calc, you would have got a 3 by 1 with 3 different numbers. It was the top one we wanted. Now, if the numbers came out to lots of decimals, you would have needed to round to the nearest whole number, because in the context of the question, we are talking about people. We can't have 170.8 people getting their hair cut. That would be a bit of a worry. Next question. So from the 2009 exam, T is a transition matrix. Fantastic. All right, question 4, but it's actually question 6. Okay, all it's asking us to do is to put it into a transitional diagram, so something that looks like this one, and which option that is. So, let's draw that diagram. First of all, we're going to have 2 points, P and Q. We're going to have a certain number going from P to Q, and a certain number going back from Q to P. We're also going to have a certain value going back, P back to itself and Q back to itself. So now it's just a matter of filling these in appropriately. Doesn't matter where you start, we'll start up in the top corner here. So from P back to P is 6.6, so that's going to be represented by 60%. From P to Q, 0.4 or 40%. From Q to P, 70%. And from Q to Q, 30%. Alright, so that's what your value should have come out to. If you look at that on there, 2009, question 6C, comes out to C. So with that one, again, everyone's different. It might help to actually draw the diagram. Some of you will be able to work that one out in your head. It's just a matter of practice. Next question. 2 politicians, Rob and Anna, are the only candidates for a forthcoming election. At the beginning of the election campaign, people asked for whom they had planned to vote. The numbers were as follows. All right, so Rob has 5,692 people that are expected to vote for him. Anna has 3,450 expected to vote for her. And then this transitional diagram shows how those voters are expected to change over the course of the campaign. Now, the actual question says the total number of people who are expected to change the candidate they plan to vote for 1 week after the election campaign begins is. All right, so there are actually a couple of ways to do this question, okay? Multiple ways. This is the way I like to do these ones. A couple of calculations and then adding together. Out of the 5,692 people that are expected currently to vote for Rob, 25% are going to shift towards Anna. So 25% of that number is going to change. All right, for Anna, her 3,450, 24% of those are expected to change. So what we would do is work out those 2 values, see what it comes out to, add the 2 together, and that'll be the total number of people that are expected to change over the course of the campaign. You add those 2 together, what you get is, for question 5, 2,251, I don't have a calculator on me at the moment, which is C. So just to recap on that one, because it is a bit of a weird one, take those 2 numbers that are voting for each, figure out what percentage of them are changing their mind using the transitional diagram, and then add them together for the total number of people that want to change their minds. What you could do is you could put all that into matrices, so you could put that diagram into a transition matrix and then this one into an initial state and do some multiplication there. But I personally think that this is a more efficient way to do that. Remember, if you've got any questions or are struggling with any of these, please make sure you contact me. Just got one more question left. Ooh, the big fella. All the way up to F. All right, so a small city is divided into 4 regions: northern, eastern, southern, and western. The number of adult males and the number of adult females living in each of the regions is 2013 is shown in matrix V below. All right, so this is the number of males and females living in different areas of a certain town. Write down the order of matrix V. Okay, this is one of those things that you should not be stuffing up. A large number of people still stuffed this question up in the 2014 further maths exam. That's because they panic, all right? You need to take your time as much as you can. You are in, I guess, stressful time constraints, but what you need to do is work on different strategies to just keep yourself calm, read the questions properly, and try not to make those simple mistakes. So this is a 4x2 matrix. As it says in the examiner's report, a lot of people wrote 2x4. Rows by columns, people. How many adult males lived in the western region in 2013? All right, so male columns, interested in the western region. So number of males in the western was 1,850. So that's all that question's asking. It's not asking for any fancy calculations or anything like that, just to identify that specific element within the matrix. In terms of the population of the city, what does the sum of the elements in the second column of matrix V represent? All right, this is the second column. It's asking what the sum of that means. Well, this column represents all the females living in different areas of the city. So the sum of that, meaning all those numbers added up, is simply just the total number of females living in the different areas. So for C, and again, this is just a 1-mark question. You don't need to write a whole essay or even a paragraph, whatever. It just needs a few words. An acceptable answer for this would be total number of females. It's not asking you to add them up or anything, it's just asking you to interpret what that column actually represents. Alright, an election is to be held in the city. All of the adults in each of the regions of the city will vote in the election. One of the election candidates, Miss Abad, estimates that she will receive 45% of the male votes and 55% of the female votes in the election. This information is shown in matrix P below. Explain, in terms of rows and columns, why the matrix product of V multiplied by P is defined. Well, if you think about it, V is a 4x2 matrix. P is a 2x2 matrix. It's asking why it's defined. Well, quite simply, the number of rows in V is equal, the number of columns in V is equal to the number of rows in P. That's all it is. Probably helps to put just a sentence stating that there. Number of columns in V equals number of rows in P. So that's just basically being able to identify what defines a matrix multiplication. Question E. The product of matrices V and P is shown below. Using appropriate elements from the matrix product V times P, write a calculation to show that the value of W is 1,415. All right, so we've been given our answer matrix here. It's a 4x1. Oh, hang on, sorry. P was a 2x1, not a 2x2. So it's a 4x1, we need that top element. Okay, so this is being able to demonstrate how two matrices get multiplied together. So being able to use a CAS probably won't fully cut it here. It does ask for the calculation that would get the answer to this. So remember, run and dive, first row gets multiplied to that column. So the element 1,360, what's the first element? Gets multiplied by 0.45 plus the next element, 1,460 multiplied by 0.55. The answer is given to us in the question, so you can just make sure that that's correct on your calculator, but that should come out to 1,415. So that's what you would need to write for that question, all right? The actual calculation that would be used to get that specific element. And lucky last, How many votes does Miss Abboud expect to receive in the election? All right, well, that product matrix that we got from V times P, that was how many votes she's expecting. So what we need to do is simply add that matrix together, all the elements within it. The first one was 1415 plus 1812 plus 988 plus 1806. Add those numbers up and you should hopefully get 6,021. So that's how many votes she expects to get from the people within that matrix. So hopefully all those questions made sense. Go through, see how many you got correct. Again, if there were some questions you didn't get correct and you don't understand why, make sure you contact me, right? It's a really good idea to be able to address all these little areas. If you don't understand anything, remember we have a lot of time to consolidate matrices, and it is a major module within Year 12 further maths. So make sure you're understanding every little thing. All right, I'm hot and itchy, so I'm gonna go take this off. Happy studying.